you bleed green? Are you an ultimate Eagles football fan? Well, you're in the right place. Ready? This is Birds 365, hosted by the new Mac and Mac, Jody McDonald and John McMullen.
Here we go!
Who collectively have covered and talked about more than 50 plus years of Eagles football. Kick off your day with Birds 365. You'll get debate.
We love to argue.
You'll get the real story from inside the locker room. And you'll hear from some of the great football minds from around the region. You're about to become an Eagles insider. Get in the game. Join Jody Mack and Johnny Mack and join the football community that flocks to Birds 365. Birds 365 starts right now.
Welcome to the NFL. Let's go! Let's go! Go! And a good morning, Birds fans. And I'm guessing most of you are Philly fans, too. So it is a good morning here on Birds 365 with your Mac and Mac guys, John McMullen and Jody McDonald. Yeah, Philly's up 1-0 against the Marlins. Certainly stayed up for all of that last night, but we're rested and we're ready to go with you to talk Philadelphia Eagles for the next 2 hours. Here we got two good guests. We'll give you the details on that coming up in just a couple. Johnny Mack, you had media availability for the two coordinators. I got a bunch of questions for you on that.
Three coordinators. Don't forget Michael.
Oh, shoot, did I forget Michael Clay? My apologies to my. Hey, I've gotten on Michael Clay's case because I think the Eagles special teams have not been good in previous seasons, and not sure he earned himself a contract extension this past offseason. But I got to give him props. He's done a pretty good job this year with a lot of movable parts. And I think the priority to special teams is down here for the Philadelphia Eagles. So you're not going to get any complaints from me for Michael Clay. So my apologies for leaving him out of yesterday's conversation. But first things first, will Michael Clay be getting a addition to his special teams with the addition of Bradley Roby to the Philadelphia Eagle practice squad?
Yeah, happy Bradley Roby Day. I don't know if that's bigger than a win in Red October, but yeah, I mean, I don't know about special teams. I mean, he's here to play slot corner, and we'll see how quickly they can get him up to speed. They're going to start him out on the practice squad. He's got to get in game shape, obviously. Hasn't been there. So it'll take a little time to ramp up. But they should have a couple games before the trade deadline. I don't think this is, precluding anything. If they see something at the trade deadline that they think might help them, I don't think they're going to dismiss it because Bradley Roby is here. But it's a veteran player. Played a lot of football, played a lot in the slot, and they need a slot corner. The Bradbury in the slot long-term was not going to work, and I give him credit for recognize it, even though they won't admit it publicly. They obviously recognize it, and that's a positive sign. But, yeah, we'll see how it goes. I mean, it's another mercenary market. This is where the Eagles, I said, Howie in a lot of ways created this market, and I thought it was going to be a bigger deal moving forward after what happened last year. And it might turn out to be nothing. Rashaan Evans turned out to be nothing. But, there are veteran players sitting and saying, you know what? I don't want to deal with training camp. I don't want to do this. I'll pick and choose a potential contender. And that's certainly what Roby's camp is saying. He had other opportunities, no way of proving that, but he wanted to pick and choose and try to find a contender. And here he is. So we'll see how it works out.
All right. Unless those other contenders were a team like the Bears, who most people expected to be, the Texans, who most people expected to be bad. I'm not sure that I'm buying it. Last year, well, you got the great phrase. What do you call it? The defensive tackles Eagles signed last year.
Mercenary market.
The mercenary market. I agreed with you wholeheartedly last year. I think both of those guys wanted no part of training camp. Big guys, sweating in August sun. I believe every minute of that with those two guys, and guys who had made specifically Ndamukong Suh whole lot of money. So if you're waiting and waiting, well, you're losing money. Every week that you wait, that's a week that you're not on the roster and not getting paid. Those two guys didn't have to worry about that because they made a lot of money during their career. Bradley Roby wasn't always a highly paid cornerback. So he's a guy who I think would actually look at the bottom line and go, how many weeks am I going to be out before I sign? I think it's less believable than it was last year. Last year, I think you hit the nail right on the head. It might be the case again this year if I'm giving you my opinion. I don't think there was anyone who was jumping out to give him a chance to play. There might have been some teams that said, stay in shape if we have some injuries. And let's be honest, the reason that Bradley Roby's here is because the Eagles have all the injuries that they have in their defensive backfield. If they didn't, Bradley Roby wouldn't be a Philadelphia Eagle. He could have sat and waited. Oh, I'm waiting for the Eagles to sign me so I can get a chance at taking a run at the Super Bowl. And then he never gets signed. No, I think that's less likely a fit here than it was last year. But whatever percentage fit it was, yeah, the Eagles are benefiting from it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know Bradley Roby's, financial history, but I mean, he should be fine. This is a former first-round pick, so he played out his rookie deal with the Broncos, and he got the 5th-year option, so that was upwards of $9 million. Then he signed a big money deal in Houston. 3 years, $30 million. So I'm looking at his career earnings while you're talking. He's over $48 million.
It's better than I thought it would be.
If you can't get through life, you got some issues. And there are plenty of people who live above their means, even in the NFL. So I don't know what's going on from that perspective, but yeah, I mean, he's made a lot of money in his career. He's, part of it is he's a cornerback and he's 31 going on 32. So we all know how they feel about that. He's used to making a lot of money. So he could have he could have gotten a 1-year Nick Morrow type deal, veteran minimum, but this is a guy used to making a heck of a lot more than that. So yeah, I completely buy he was waiting around for the right spot. That part of it, I'm not sure how much he has left. I mean, that's into the equation. He didn't play all that well with the Saints last season. Was looking up his PFFs. He had his career low grade last season, worst run defense grade of his career, and missed a bunch of tackles at the second highest rate of his career. So how much does he have left? I don't know. But is he better than the options here right now? Probably. So we'll see. As the same with Evans, people get excited when you bring former first-round picks in. He was here for 3 days, and they got a quick look at him, and that was it.
Yeah, it seemed enough. So just, I know this is pure speculation on your part. How long is it going to take get him up to speed? You and I are not hanging out in his local high school gym or where he's doing his just physical.
Well, cornerbacks tend to be in really good shape. Number one, I mean, you can't play cornerback at a high level in the NFL unless you're a tremendous athlete. So I think he's probably in pretty good shape, and I'll get to see him today. But that's different than football shape.
Right.
So I can't imagine he's playing this weekend. But I do think they want to get a look at him before the trade deadline and get as much information as possible before, and that's coming up quickly. So, how it was described to me, and I'm trying to bring up the text message. He's going to join the practice squad, get him in game shape, learn the defense, and be elevated at some point. So they'll have 3 elevations to work with. But again, October 31st, trade deadline. I would think they would want to have at least enough information to make a decision. Can we do better at the trade deadline? So I expect him out on the field, not this week, but the week after.
Right. So he signs the practice squad, and they had a full practice squad, so someone had to go. Kyron Johnson, after being a draft pick just 1 year ago, was let go from the practice squad. He was let go from the regular squad, but then resigned to the practice squad. Now he's not even on the practice squad anymore. So I was a little surprised by that, but not the
he already got cut and brought back. So this is the second time. So clearly he's, at the back end of the practice squad. Yeah, I mean, they have a lot of edge rushers, and they tried him a little bit at all-ball linebacker, which he played some all-ball linebacker in college as well. But yeah, I mean, they've already done that a couple times with him on the practice squad, sort of. So he might be back at some point, but clearly he's at the bottom level of the practice squad as well. So, yeah, it is what it is. But
here's the question that I have for you, because shoot, we debated it yesterday before the addition of Mr. Roby, how the Eagles are going to juggle their elevations this week on a weekly basis. It seems like we're trying to figure out what the Eagles are going to. I don't know. Does every team do this, Johnny? I don't follow everybody's roster every single week, and I don't know if you do either. But
not as much. Well, everybody churns the back end of the practice squad, if that's what you mean.
No, I mean the elevation. You only have 3 elevations per player. Who are you elevating on?
Yeah, there's a lot of teams that don't even elevate people if they're healthy, because remember, you have a 53-man roster. You can only dress 47, so it's incumbent. The guys on your 53 a lot of times can't even play. So you usually elevate for a specific reason, injuries, and that nature. I would say the Eagles, especially with the punter situation, are and even punt returner early before they put Covey back on the 53. Yeah, they're probably ahead of the curve in manipulating that stuff. A lot of teams you'll see they'll elevate one guy or no guys. Yeah. So they're definitely, and I think that's good to utilize because the rules are different now. So you can do different things. And the Eagles have tried to keep players that maybe have a high upside on the 53, but aren't ready to play right now. And they've been able to do that by utilizing the practice squad. And as long as you don't get pilfered, and they did on the tight end, Brady Russell, they already have 4 tight ends. Albert O can't play, can't get past Grant Calcutt. So you can't keep Brady Russell. You can't elevate him to the 53. And you're going to lose guys occasionally, but I don't think anybody's worried about losing Brady Russell at this point.
Yeah. For me, it's just a continuous. Contavious Pope is here again. We got Contavious 3 here again for another week. I still can't quite figure out why he's on the not only 53-man roster, but 46. He gets put up on game day.
Yeah. So on September 4th, when the Eagles brought back Nick Morrow and they signed Tyre Phillips to the practice squad, they released Kyron Johnson and T1 McMullen, the cornerback. And they brought both of those guys back. Mullins on the practice squad again. Kyron was on the practice squad, obviously, until getting released again. So there's a lot of churn. And yeah, I'm looking September 15th. They signed Rashaan Evans to the practice squad on September 12th, and they released him on September 15th. That's how quick it was.
Hope you had a three-day good stay here in Philadelphia, Rashaan. I understand the whole churning the bottom of the practice squad, and it's trying to take advantage of the system. I give the Eagles and Howie Roseman in specific a lot of credit for that, but sometimes it does make decisions tougher on game day. But I guess they live for that stuff, getting the exact right guys ready to go, and we'll see when Mr. Roby is ready to go. All right, Sean Desai spoke yesterday, talked about a couple of things on defense and the usage of Bradbury in the slot and giving him his props for it and the like. Do you think he's excited about the addition to a new slot corner when Roby's ready to play? I guess my question is, do you think Desai really likes Bradbury? He's the guy who's weighing it as much as anybody else, taking him off the outside, put him on the inside. Do you think he believes that Bradbury has done a good job in there?
Oh, he loves Bradbury. I mean,
as a slot corner,
he loves him as everything. That's the reason they put him in there. But they also recognize, and good for them, because I was starting to worry about it, that it's much better to have him on the outside than it is on the inside. It's a more important position. I mean, talk about the valuation of the positions as a whole, and another thing the Eagles are good at. Outside corners get paid more than slot corners for a reason. It's a more important position. So you have an all-pro player. This is why it never made any sense to me. Outside, you want them outside. Now, from their standpoint, very similar to the running game in week 2 and a lot of things, if you got to do something to win a game, you do it. And Bradbury was their best option, and they did it. But you don't want to do that long-term. And I think that's where the Eagles are and Sean Desai is. And that's a good sign, because I've been saying it from day one. I don't get it. I don't get the Bradbury move to the slot for multiple snaps. I don't mind it in situation. Kelsey's there. Yeah. All right. Throw him in there. Mike Evans wants to go in the slot. Yeah. Move him in there. But Cooper Kupp, if he's ready, what do you, that's not helping anybody. This game's about matchups and styles and taking advantage, especially offensively. You got a big 6'2" long corner in that traditional Kupp Edelman type slot receiver. I mean, that's a big advantage for the offense. It didn't make sense to me, and I'm glad the Eagles have clearly recognized that.
Here's why it made sense to me. He was, and probably still is, even with the addition of Roby, their best slot corner who's capable of playing right now. And if you've got a massive drop-off to whoever else you're going to put there, let's try and lessen that drop-off. Now, on the outside, you got to be able to have a non-massive drop-off, which it might very well be with Bradbury being as good as he is. So it's trying to weigh it out on a game-to-game basis. And I got no problem with the Eagles making that decision on a game-to-game basis. They didn't say when they moved Bradbury inside, he's our new slot corner. They just said he's our slot corner for now. So as long as they had the right time frame in mind, I don't think it was that big a problem. And yeah, they did find a way to win the game. And I thought Bradbury played well in there last week against the Commanders. All right, you got Mac and Mac here, John McMullen and Jody McDonald. And we're going to add a Mike and Mike. I think there was a radio show called that once.
I believe so.
As far as our guests go, we got a Mike and Mike coming your way. Hour number 2, Mike Gill, our weekly contributor from down the shore, ESPN Radio 97.3. But first up, Mike Tanier, who's been good enough to jump in on our show many a times over the last couple of years, writing for the new website, themessenger.com. Mike Tanier up next here on Birds 365.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
At Pond Lehocky, we've recovered billions of dollars for our clients, and we're confident we can do the same for you. With over 250 years of combined courtroom experience, We've helped over 100,000 injured clients obtain some of the largest settlements in Pennsylvania. One conversation is all it takes to help you and your family get back on track. If you've been injured in an accident, give Pond Lehocky a call.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Staffing is not easy, but that's what we do every day, all day. The key to our success is storytelling, asking the right questions to find the right people. Hi, I'm Gary Kane, president of Kane Partners. We want to be your staffing partner.
Since 1977, it's always been about you, the community, at Rafferty Subaru. And through the Subaru Love Promise, we prove we care by supporting charities like So Good Now.
So Good Now helps kids in under-resourced areas by connecting them with student athletes to serve as mentors. We remove barriers so athletes can help youth in the corners of our communities where light and love are needed most.
When you choose Rafferty Subaru, you help organizations like So Good Now.
It's all about you at Rafferty Subaru.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
For the big story on Action News,
search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Appreciate you streaming in. Back and back here on Birds 365. Hey, look at that handsome guy. You can hit the like button right now. You can like Mike Tanier's shirt. What are you wearing today, Tanier? What's that?
Little Rutgers Scarlet Knight action.
Oh, very nice for our Jerseyites, former Rutgers grads. You can go down to Mike Tanier Road. Yes, I've had to add the messenger to my frequently visited websites these days because they've got my guy Scott Miller writing baseball for him and Mike Tanier writing football for him these days. So check out the new news/sports website, themessenger.com. How you liking things over there, Mr. Tanier?
I'm loving it. You're right. We got Scotty Miller. We got a really good baseball department. We got guys like me, Kalen Jones, Mike Renner in the football department. And we're really starting to ramp it up now. You know, in August, it was kind of like, hey, we're new, we're launching. Now we're getting our feet under us and getting a flow, and I'm really enjoying it.
By the way, Mike, I'm glad you pointed out, and I, you know, we're obviously Birds 365. We'll get into plenty of Eagles, but if anybody's been following Pittsburgh, the Steelers, and what's going on with Matt Canada, or what somebody did to Matt Canada, however you want to look at it, I did notice the same thing you noticed, and I don't want to get in that muck, but I'm glad you put up there whispers. That's not how NFL team employee email addresses are configured. So, yeah, somebody went to this. I don't know who to blame more. The goofball that's going through the change password function, or the guy making this burner account who doesn't know NFL email addresses. But I'm glad you put that out there. So
it's a weird thing. Someone is sort of like catfishing or trolling Matt Canada by pretending to be a regular fan with a burner account, like complaining when everyone criticizes Matt Canada. And it's this weird multi-leveled social.
Yeah, it's so weird. It's weird. And people in Philadelphia know because of Brian Colangelo. Hey, it's happened. So I'm sure that's where it came from.
Right.
Where somebody, but yeah, I'm glad you put that out there. So
Burner accounts aside, I saw a stat this week. You might be able to relate and or give us more information on. I'm saying I don't even remember the exact parameters of the stat. The Steelers haven't gained 400 yards in X amount of games under. There's a reason why this whole burner thing is happening. because the Steeler offense is not good, right, Mike?
No, there's plenty of criticism for the guy as an offensive guy. I have no problem with that. Legitimate criticism. Yeah.
A lot of legitimate criticism if you watch it. Like, watch the Houston Texans game last week. This is the Houston Texans game. And, they're getting stuffed. They're getting sacked. You're not seeing anything that schemes up to get like a George Pickens open, where that seems like that should be like 101 offensive strategies, get this guy open more, and you don't see a lot of it. And the thing with Matt Canada, the Steelers coordinator, I believe he's been the coordinator 3 years or 4 years. I still don't know what the philosophy is. Like, he had Roethlisberger at the end, and I know Roethlisberger was toast, and it's like, I don't know what you're trying to do with Roethlisberger. Now I don't know what you're trying to do with Pickett. Is it a short passing, deep passing? It's not an option, read option, anything like that. It's just a bunch of plays, and these plays aren't working. This team is struggling despite a very good defense.
Yeah, and there's a lot of coordinators. You could look at Chicago and Luke Getzey. I'd look at the Jets. Yeah, I look at everybody who's been involved with Aaron Rodgers. Jody knows, because I think they just got out of the way of Aaron Rodgers, and now they're left to their own devices. It's a little bit more difficult. But we'll use that to get back to the Eagles, because Brian Johnson is a first-time play caller in the NFL, at least. Hey, the Eagles are 4-0, but nobody seems to be happy here in Philadelphia, South Jersey, Mike. There's only 2 4-0 teams.
Right.
You can't get Dallas Goedert involved. 1 week it's this, the passing game. Why can't they run the ball against Washington? Have people gotten spoiled in the Delaware Valley?
Yeah, I guess every game has got to be a 31-0 blowout.
Mm-hmm.
And these are not flawless games by any stretch of the imagination, but these are also not 98-pound weakling teams. The Commanders are not a terrible team. The Vikings are not a terrible team. They won 13 games last year, and you are winning these games. Last week was clearly harder than you think it should have been. The Goddard thing mystifies me because, if you're 1-3, then you start saying, why isn't the tight end more involved in this offense? Well, if you're 4-0 and you say, why isn't the tight end? Because A.J. Brown caught 6 million passes last week. Because a couple weeks ago, you ran for 350 yards. The offense is working, and it's working in different ways against different opponents. So, I've seen the Goddard, RPO play where he catches like a 1-yard pass and then he disappears for the rest of the game. It's not like there's been any game where it's like, oh, we better get Goddard involved in this because nothing else is working. Devontae Smith's having a big game. Swift is having a big game. You're fine. Goddard is not some kind of problem there.
All that being said, Mike, what are you seeing with Jalen Hurts? I think we can all agree, even the biggest Jalen Hurts fans, he's not played as well as he did last year. Simply leave it at that. Mm-hmm. Why do you think a drop-off from last year to this year?
I don't think it's that precipitous. I don't think he's getting as many running opportunities. I think when he is running, he does look a little slower than he did last year. That's something I noticed when he takes off. Maybe it was because it was the Commanders and you got guys like Chase Young who are fast as heck on the defensive line chasing him down.
Do you think it's slower or tentative? Because those are two different things.
It could be that, and they go hand in hand. There's no reason to think he had an ankle injury or anything like that he would be slower. So maybe he's a little tentative. You see teams like the Vikings who said, you are not going to be allowed to do this. We're going to, sort of run blitz the edge, take that away. And okay, hand off, 287 rushing yards, whatever it was, win the game there. So I guess the concern was the turnovers against the Buccaneers. That's the thing that I look at and say that is something potentially alarming. These should not be turnovers. They should not be interceptions. Not like I said, I don't see this super precipitative drop off here. I think it's within the margins of what he does regularly. It's just not resulting in these 31-10 blowouts.
Yeah, I think the biggest part, Mike, is if you come into 2022, and it was ironic because they played Minnesota in week 2 both years.
Right.
And they came in the first time with Ed Donatel and the Big Fangio defense, and they just said, all right, we're going to sit back and make Jalen Hurts throw the football to beat us.
Right.
And they came in this year and they said, Jalen Hurts isn't going to beat us.
Right.
Off schedule, running the football. And they have 6-man boxes.
Yeah.
And the Eagles took advantage of it both times. I think that's a positive.
Yes.
Why don't people focus more on what's going on? And this is not just Philadelphia, around the NFL. There's an opponent out there, and they're trying to accomplish something. And I think it's only a positive that the Eagles have said, all right, you're going to do that. We're going to do this.
Right. There's an opponent out there who is trying to win. And life existed before the last 10 plays. If there are 2 drives in a row where something has gone wrong, and I'll sit in the Philly Sports Tavern or I'll be on the Twitter and like rage has happened. Like, why aren't we running? Why can't we run the ball? What do you mean? Why can't we run the ball? 2 weeks ago, we ran the ball down an opponent's throat. What I do like about Johnson, and I think this is an extension of Sirianni, I think Steakham did it a little bit as well. If there's something the defense can't do, I'm just going to keep attacking that. The rookie could not cover Brown last week. Brian Flores was like, 6 in the box, 5 deep picket fence defense. We're going to be vulnerable up the middle. A lot of coordinators are like, well, no, I have my game plan. I have all these things I want to get involved in. I have all these toys I want to play with. The Eagles are like, screw it. We're going to throw it to Brown until you double cover him or something. We're going to run Swift up the middle until you bring guys up. It's like very old fashioned, but it's a good way of running things. And the Eagles have had success with it this year.
I need your opinion on this one because it was certainly broached yesterday when the coordinator availability was there and the day before when Sirianni talked to the media. When the Eagles scored on the 2-move touchdown with a minute and change to play, was Mike Tanier's first thought, wow, nice play, guys, way to go? Or, wait, what are you doing? You should just be walking off the field a minute and 32 seconds from now after Elliott kicks the game-winning field goal. What was the first thought that went through your head?
You don't like this assumption that you're going to hand off to kill the clock and get the 47-yard field goal at the buzzer, and that's guaranteed.
I'm pretty close with Jake Elliott.
It's not guaranteed in the NFL. And you play to win and you play to score touchdowns.
Play to win the game.
Play to win the game. And your win probability when you get that touchdown. And like you can be sitting there armchair quarterback or like running your Madden control and like, I can run one more play. You've got an opportunity there to get 7 points. You take it. Okay. Yeah. I don't want to nerf Jalen Hurts. It looked like Jalen Hurts makes that call at the line.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, he did. Yeah. So,
and it's like, I see a one-on-one matchup where we're just going to crush this guy. I'm not going to take it though right now. I'm going to, line up Elliott and, fall down. I don't like it. I don't like snapping the ball extra times. I don't like relying on the kicker. I don't relying on a holder that like just came up. All these other things along the way when you have that chance to take that touchdown. And if that play fails, plan B is to do that. Because where that ball's thrown, you threw it out of bounds, you can still do all this other stuff to win the game. I think we're really micromanaging the, sitting around with our.
What you have to do when I said the same thing, Mike, it's what you have to do when they win every game and you start nitpicking and doing these things. Yeah. Look, I pay lip service to that if Patrick Mahomes is on the other side and by the way, it turns into a 3-point lead instead of, I always want the 7-point lead. Yeah. Always. If they're going to take it and put Forbes, as you mentioned, they're putting Forbes, that poor kid on AJ Brown. I'm going to beat that into a drum. It's man coverage. They get the touchdown. Then the result, because the defense didn't hold up and they allow Sam Howell to get the touchdown on the final play of regulation.
Yeah.
But guess what, Mike? If AJ doesn't get the taunting penalty, that's probably not even in play.
And that taunting penalty is nonsense. I'm sorry. What he does there is nothing. And that's another handing them sort of 15 yards on that. And you have the play before the touchdown by Commanders where if the kid catches the ball, the game's over.
Yes.
Where it kind of skitters away. Yeah. And I know it was another, like, the 3rd down, 4th down where they get it by the skin of their teeth and it looked really, really like almost like how in the world is this happening? All these improbable things happen against the Eagles. By the way, I lost track. If on that Brown touchdown, if you just basically say no gain, run the clock, kick the field goal, where are that? 52 yards, 53 yards? I don't remember where that was.
Yeah, I'd have to look it up.
I think it was long 40s.
Yeah, 40.
Oh, it was long 40s.
I think it was less than 50. I think
okay.
It was 23-yard touchdown, I want to say.
Jake's probably making it. He's red hot, but as you point, you could have bad snap, bad hold, little off. You never know on a particular play. Nothing's a given. If I can score 7 points, I'm trying to score 7 points.
All right, but let me put Mike Tanier to the test again since he's 0 for 1 on second guessing here. Will you second guess Riverboat Ron Rivera when he scores the touchdown with no time left in the game and decides, we'll kick the extra point to go to overtime in Philly's house rather than saying, let's go for 2 and decide this game here?
I feel like they should have going for 2.
All right. Yeah.
I really
all
think,
right.
yeah.
Mike
got
will
that
second
one
guess
right.
Somebody. It's Ron Rivera. Good job, Mike.
I think Mike's 2 for 2. You think
One
he's
play
1 for 2.
with a 230-pound running back that you got in Robinson, with a scrambling quarterback who could run some kind of option nonsense with McLaurin versus, we're going to try and do sequential offense with this kid who's had like 5 career starts and has gotten sacked a bunch of times. Yeah. Run one play to win the game.
Yeah. By the way, the Eagles were at the 28. I'm just looking it up. So
yeah, that's 45. Yeah,
45.
that's really
46.
makeable.
Yeah,
But
that's money in the bank for.
But you can make that if Brown is incomplete. If it bounces out of downs, whatever, you can make that.
Yeah. You're 2 for 2 as far as I'm concerned, Mike. I question Ron. Yeah, I mean, that's you're a significant underdog on the road.
Yeah.
All the momentum is right there.
Yeah.
You try to steal the game.
Yeah.
And to the point where I have stripped him of that nickname. Nobody can call him Riverboat Ron anymore. If you're going to lay up on that, you got to tin cup that thing. You got to be Kevin Costner. You got to go for it. It's absurd.
He hasn't been Riverboat Ron for like 7 or 8 years. That was really when he had Cam in Cam's full prime, and it was kind of like the Eagles out 4th and 1. We got Cam's just
well, and plus Brandon Staley came along, and now everybody goes for it. So now he looks like old school conventional Ron Rivera, if that's a nickname. Well, let's go to the defense. Sean Desai. I've been impressed by a couple things with Sean Desai. One, I think he's willing to try different things a little bit more than maybe Jonathan Gannon, but they have been effective stopping the pass for the most part. Now, part of that is built in. Teams are playing from behind, so they're throwing it more.
Yeah.
But as we mentioned, Sam Howell, I thought played pretty well, but you got to be able to hold up in that type of situation. They got the big lead against Minnesota. All of a sudden, Cousins throwing the football all over the lot. They've given up a lot of passing touchdowns, a lot of passing yards. Any concern about this team's pass defense?
The health in the secondary and the youth behind the health in the secondary are problems. I think you guys were talking about that before.
Yeah.
You don't have with Maddox out, you don't have a number 3 cornerback plan, more or less, because you're not the trust in Ringo isn't there, and so you got this other kid out there, and you have to kind of like hide him. You're not getting a lot of pressure of the front 4. Not getting the pressure that when you look at the front 4 on paper, you just say, well, this team never has to blitz. This team is never going to have to blitz. And they had to bring a 5th guy. Once they brought a 5th guy, everything changed against the Commanders. It was nonstop pressure, whether it was Morrow or somebody else. But time and time again, against okay but not great offensive lines, it's like guys aren't getting home. Nolan Smith hasn't been much of a factor. Reddick, get the injury or whatever, hasn't been much of a factor. The interior guys get some push. That's great. I looked at this front 4 on paper, like no one's ever going to block these guys. It's going to be devastation. And it's not quite there.
No, it hasn't been. And by the way, in a couple of Morrow sacks, he was the 6th guy because the Eagles oftentimes line up with 5 defensive linemen to begin with. Call the edge guy what you want to call the edge guy, but he's playing. He's coming forward immediately on the snap. That's part of the rush, as far as I'm concerned. So I'll give Desai credit because he has dialed up a couple more blitzes. I know they like him more here in Philadelphia than the previous defensive coordinator just because of that. He does bring some extra pressure. And by the way, Nicholas Morrow getting the love from PFF. Johnny told me yesterday, 2nd-ranked linebacker so far through 4 games in the National Football League.
Yeah.
Nick Morrow. Off the Eagle practice.
By the way, Mike will appreciate this. Roquan Smith is number 1. So the Bears spent $100 million on football line.
Right. Now, PFF, God bless him. Nick Morrow made like 1,000 plays last year, and PFF hated him behind a bad defensive line.
Yes.
And now he's making
magically good.
Yeah. Maybe you might be measuring the defensive line in front of the guy a lot with these situations.
Not maybe. But I'll tell you, because I've gotten a lot of criticism because I think TJ Edwards is a good player. And I thought the Eagles made a mistake. At what he cost, I thought they could have brought him back.
Yeah.
And TJ had a very good PFF ranking last year, playing behind a great defense. But guess what? He's still 22nd behind the worst defensive front in football. So that to me tells me he's a good player.
Yeah. Oh, the Bears linebackers are running around in circles trying to put out fires every single week when you watch them, and nobody else is getting the job done. Him and Edwards are playing really well.
Yeah. But to Nick's point, he has played well. You have to give him credit. You're right. Those 3 sacks he's played. I think I looked it up, Mike. He's played 3,600 career snaps in the NFL. He had 4 career sacks. He has 3 in one game playing behind that defensive front. But I will say this, and Seth Joyner's the one who brought it up to me, and I dismissed it immediately. So I want to see if you dismiss it.
Okay.
Seth started asking me, hey, is Nick Morrow better than Nakobe Dean? When Nakobe Dean's healthy, do you stick with Nick Morrow? I completely dismissed it. I said, no way, no shot in heck. If he keeps playing at this level, I think we all look at Nakobe Dean, and I'm guilty of it, and I'm thinking about Athens. I'm thinking about Georgia.
Yeah.
Hasn't done it at the NFL level yet. Where are you? If Nick Morrow keeps playing like this, can you take him off the field?
Dean has better upside. Okay. But we haven't seen a lot, like you said, of that. Morrow is kind of like an NFL professional at linebacker who's proven like he's going to mind his assignments. Yeah. When he's going to be sort of the unblocked or blocked by the running back guy coming on the blitz, he's going to get home. I mean, my first thought would be that you can package Dean in some way and Morrow could be the start, or you can package Morrow as a blitz specialist, which is out of character for him career-wise, admittedly, but you can do things like that in the short term. So I don't really think of it as an either-or right now. I think there's ways you can get both of these linebackers on the field in different situations.
I'm glad you think of it the same way I do, because we touched on this yesterday. The Eagles don't rotate linebackers.
No,
Last year, they had 2 very good linebackers, and they basically played every snap. Nakobe Dean, a guy who you took in the 3rd round, you thought you'd like to develop, give him a little chance to play. 32 snaps all year long. So they put Edwards and Kaiser White out there and just left them out there. They didn't rotate at all. You're talking about a potential rotation of the 3 linebackers this year. That's what I'd like to see. They rotate guys in and out of that defensive line basically on every single snap. Why couldn't you do that a little bit at linebacker? It
has to be more package oriented, because I don't think you just rotate the guys. Like on the defensive line, sometimes you're just rotating guys. Okay, your fresh legs, get out there. I always thought of Dean as like a gap shooter type of guy. Play perpendicular line of scrimmage, shoot the gaps there. So that would be like your blitz guy, or maybe he's your run down guy, where it's like, oh, it's 3rd and 1. You're going to come in and you're just going to, attack the B gap, try to blow things up. And he could play that kind of role. I would think if it's nickel and you want guys in coverage, maybe that's where you want Morrow. And then once in a while, he surprises you with a blitz.
Here's the problem. Eagles have 3 linebackers. None of them are great in coverage.
They've never. I can't remember.
That's probably the weakest part of all 3 of their games.
Right.
Well, Zach Cunningham is kind of savvy. I think he's the best. At least he's long and he knows how to play. But he's got, he's not the best athlete in the world at this stage of his career. But he knows where to be, and he's got such a long frame for a linebacker. Sometimes he gets in the way. So he's the best, I would say, of the group.
Not a lot of coverage linebackers in the NFL anyway. No. There's Fred Warner and there's Levante David entering his 37th season, and you can name a couple of others. But that's why teams are putting safeties. Let's put a bigger safety out there, and that's who covers McCaffrey or whoever.
Yeah. I agree with you.
Speaking of McCaffrey, biggest game of the week, Cowboys 49ers, and McCaffrey has had an unbelievable start to his season. So is their quarterback, that Purdy guy, who some people just refuse to give any credit to, and he's a legit MVP candidate. Undefeated in all of his starts that he both started and finished so far in his NFL career.
I'm taking the field on that MVP vote over Brock Purdy. I'm taking the field.
Take the field, yeah. Anyway, where were we?
Where we was. Who do you like this week, 49ers, Cowboys?
I like the 49ers. They top to bottom. They are the best team in the NFC right now. Yes,
ooh, you're gonna excite the 49ers trolls on the stream.
I mean, they are. And like you were talking about how unhappy Eagles fans are with their 4-0 start. The 49ers have nothing to be unhappy with. All they can do is be like, how dare you not call Brock Purdy the MVP? That's all they've got right now. So I think they're stronger overall. We We just saw a common opponent, the Cardinals, in which the Cowboys tripped badly over. And the 49ers have to work on a little bit because the Cardinals are better than people thought, but then they take control of that game. And I think from an Eagles fan standpoint, you would probably, first of all, you don't want to root for the Cowboys because you're an Eagles fan. And secondly, it'd be better to put the Cowboys behind the 8 ball for the division and everything else, have them lose, than say, oh, let's expose some flaw in the 49ers. Because I don't think that gets the Eagles anywhere. Like you would rather say at this point, oh yeah, the 49ers are 5-0, and that's the team to beat, than have a Cowboys team that's coming off of that as you move forward and say, oh, they've demonstrated what they can do, and now they're starting to accumulate tiebreakers for the playoffs.
It's interesting because this week the Eagles are out in Los Angeles to face the Rams and Sean McVay. I like to call this the motion part of their schedule. They're going to get Miami in a couple weeks with Mike McDaniel. They move people all around. Exactly. Where are you on the scale of Mike McDaniel reinventing offense, scoring 70 points, then getting beat by 4 touchdowns? How badly did people overreach that? Or is Mike just better scheming than everybody but maybe Kyle Shanahan and who we learned from?
Yeah, a good schemer, and he's out there. The overreaction was bizarre, and like the tape guys on the social networks, and like, look at this design, and and here's Tua, and he's faking here, and then he's doing a reverse pitch, and the guard's running out here, and the guy gains 35 yards, and it's a beautiful design. It looks like a Picasso painting, and then I will look at it and say, look at the defense, look at the Broncos defense. There are 4 down linemen. The 3 linebackers are playing out where safeties would play, and the safeties are playing out where concession stand people play. It's like, this is a 4-man box. They could have run off tackle for 25 yards probably, as the Eagles might have done, or they could have done this intricate, amazing 16 fake play and gotten 2 more yards than that anyway. So I'm not criticizing McDaniel here, but it's like, like, this is a game where they couldn't cover your receivers at all, and they were down by 30 points, and you were just handing it to them. This whole, reinventing and revolutionizing. It's easy to be an offensive coordinator when everybody's awesome.
Yeah.
It was easy for Joe Brady at LSU to look like a genius when Joe Burrow was throwing the Justin
That's
Jefferson
true.
and
Joe
Jamar
Brady
Chase against Mississippi State and against the NFL, and it's like, that don't work for the Carolina Panthers. That don't work for the Carolina Panthers. So the thing I'm worried about the Dolphins, because I'm worried about Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and got 2 good corners, but like one of them's in the slot, like you were saying, and then they can find the third guy. I'm not worried about, oh my God, this motion is going to make it so hard for them to stop. They're hard
but I bring that up, Mike, because the Eagles don't use motion. It's the one thing.
Right.
And Nick Sirianni is, he says this all the time. You never want to be bottom 5 in anything in the NFL.
Right.
Well, they're bottom 5 in motion. They don't motion.
Neither did like the old Mike Shanahan Broncos teams, whether it was Elway or somebody is by design, because they are lining up and Jalen's looking at it and saying, "Oh, rookie nonsense guys on AJ Brown. I don't want to move guys around. I
like that description, by the way.
Yeah,
rookie nonsense.
Rookie nonsense. He's a good rookie, but rookie is on AJ Brown. I don't want to move guys around or anything or very limited motion, like moving the back one side to another for a blitzer. Oh, you know what? The box is 5 men. I'm in shotgun. I got Swift next to me. They got a 5-man box because they're afraid of Brown and Swift. Just going to run the ball, call an audible off of that. So it's a different philosophy than saying, okay, we're going to confuse them by this guy going here, this guy going here, and we're going to get Dalton Schultz lined up on a linebacker because Tyreek Hill's going this way. It's a different mentality.
All right. Coming up this week against the Rams for the Eagles, one of the things that has impressed me most about Brian Johnson, and I know it's a cumulative decision. They put the package together all week. It's Nick Sirianni's offense, but it's Johnson who's making the calls in the moment during the game. Yeah, when they needed to run the football, they ran the football. If the other team said, we're going to take this way, but we're leaving this gaping hole. All right, we'll take the gaping hole. And they run for as many yards as they do. What do you think the Rams will try and do against the Eagles this week? If they're going to make a predetermined decision, we're not going to allow the Eagles to do this, but we realize we're leaving ourselves open over here. How do you think the Rams defense leans against Eagles offense come Sunday?
I think they're going to protect their secondary because their cornerbacks are not particularly good. You have Darian Kendrick on one side, who's a decent corner, played at Georgia. I'm surprised we didn't snap him up, but he's a slower guy. And I'm blanking on the other guy's name. I think it's Colby Durant, who is like blazingly fast but small and kind of mistake prone. They're going to try and protect those guys, so you think you're going to see shells. And they're going to be moving Donald all over Lord's creation. I was watching this against the Colts, and Donald is out on edge and doing all these other things here because they don't have a lot of real pass rushers, and they're going to try to dictate on that side. And it's not a really good defense. It's a defense that looked good against the Colts, who are like the AAA affiliate of the Eagles last week. And will surprise you. And, of course, if you can't block Donald and you lose track of him, he's going to disrupt stuff. But I think that's how the Rams are going to approach it.
At Mike Tanier, make sure you follow Mike on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it these days, themessenger.com. So you made, I'll leave it here with you. You made a little bit of a reaction to it, watching the Eagles in a bar. Let's give us the full take on that. How was that?
Oh, I would have been doing shots at the end of that. See, I can sip a beer early in the games, but like I got to write 4,000 words on Sunday night. But like, and the folks at PJs, I won't say which PJs, but
I know which PJs.
You know which PJs.
That's a great PJs.
Right. Are losing. Everyone's losing their minds, and I'm trying to be clinical and tactical. And it's like, I got to write about the Dolphins game. They're like, part of me, line them up, shots, gummies, anything, because like that game was headache fuel.
All right, last one for me. And we started off talking about the Steelers and the mess that is their offense and trolling that's going on there with their offensive coordinator. I know you like a good drama when you get your hands on it. This Cleveland thing, I did not know this. They didn't report it on game day on any of the national pregame shows or whatever, that Deshaun Watson counted himself out of the Cleveland game, that he was medically cleared to play, and he decided his body just wasn't up to it. It's become a bigger deal after the fact. Now, they're on a bye week this week, so the story will die down. Will it pump itself back up? I think that's the kind of thing that can just derail a season. When people start questioning the desire to win of your quarterback, that can take a season completely off the rails. Will this be something that's gotten over easily, or be a story that we'll be talking about all year with the Browns?
I try not to think about Deshaun Watson's body. but like you talk about a guy who, like, there are questions about this individual. And like one of the things that they tried to do is, well, you know, the off the field things were one thing, but he is a professional on the field. And you hear that all the time. And it's like, are we sure? Because he didn't look like he came back in 2022 in like absolute vim and vigor, ready to be the regular Deshaun Watson. He came back there looking a little slow, a little flabby. Maybe he was tentative, and that makes sense. But, you had a year off where you just riding the stationary bike watching TV, or were you like getting into NFL shape along the way? So this is worth monitoring. It's also worth monitoring that, like, I think we had 3 Deshaun games, and one of them was good. And like one of them was horrible against the Steelers. One of them was a mess where he was also committing penalties and, not necessarily being super consummate professional. And then one was kind of okay. So if you've got a guy who you're starting to question, and he's only playing at like top 15 or 16 in the league in his best day, where does that leave the Cleveland Browns, who are guaranteeing this guy for the next 4 years?
Yeah. A lot of people dodged a bullet there, Mike, including a certain team in Philadelphia.
Yes.
Even though people
check them out on themessenger.com. Our buddy Mike Tanier jumps in with us about once a month, and whenever he does, we have fun talking to him. And hopefully you enjoyed Mike's appearance today. Mike, good stuff, buddy. We'll get you back next month. Thanks, pal.
Thanks, Mike.
Themessenger.com for Mike Tanier here on Birds 365. All right, quickie timeout. He, John McMullen, I'm Jody McDonald. We're going Mike and Mike on you today. Tanier just arrived. He's departed. Mike Gill yet to arrive. We'll run him out at the end of the show, too, but not until we find out what kind of T-shirt he's got on. Keep it right here. We got Mac and Mac on Birds 365.
If you own a company and you're not producing a podcast, you're missing out. The public consumes messaging when they're ready. Join the professional podcast network of companies and let JAKIB Media Partners put you in the podcast arena. Come to our professional studio, or we'll come to your place of business and professionally produce your company podcast. Call JAKIB Media right now at 267-261-3428. 267-261-3428.
My name is Dr. Bruce Grosinger, and I'm the medical director of Philadelphia PRP and Stem Cell Institute. I'm reaching out to those who suffer from spine and joint pain. We use treatment methods that require no surgery, no scalpel, no drugs.
Running, walking, or whatever your desires are, Dr. Grosinger is where you need to come.
You can benefit from the same PRP and stem cell treatment as Wilbert Montgomery. Call us now at 610-222-5675.
Score and save in southeastern PA and Delaware with Colony Pools this football season, and let the experts close your pool with a custom Merlin safety cover in green for the birds. And if you join our Winter Watch team, we'll give you another 20% off, and Colony Pools will handle it all. Keep your tiles on your pool, not in your pool. Fly with Colony right now, Birds fans. Visit flywithcolony.com. EAGLES, Eagles.
Mac guys here on Birds 365. Like I said, Mike Gill going to join us about 20 minutes from now, somewhere thereabouts. Appreciate Mike Tanier jumping in, fun dude to always have on the show. I had asked you about Sean Desai before we punched Mike up and what he had to say, and you brought up the Rams motion. That we haven't seen the Eagles against a heavy motion team so far this year. Last week, there was some breakdown, certainly in the Eagles secondary. And if you're going to play the type of defense that Desai plays, that Gannon played, the Fangio type defense, it is based on communication in your secondary that the guys have to be able to talk and change and react on the fly. Now they're going to be adding, you've already got Bradbury playing out of position, and we think he's going to be in the slot again this week. If you're bringing Brown in, he's a rookie who's being asked to play a couple of different positions, be ready at a couple different positions. Is this an issue for the Eagles defensively this week that Matthew Stafford and that Ram offense can cause some problems just because of the, for lack of a better word, unrest in the Eagles secondary coming into this week, John?
Yeah, it always is. I remember talking to Jim Swartz about playing Sean McVay. It's a very disciplined week. You got to keep your discipline to a significant degree. That's what motion sort of does. Eyewash, Jim used to call it. A lot of times it's, just trying to fool young players. That's what it's about. For guys like Bradbury and Slay, it's a little bit easier because they've seen it all. For younger players, yeah, it can be an issue, and you see it all the time. When Sean was really clicking with that Rams offense, it same thing with Mike McDaniel. We were talking about with Mike Tanier there. Everybody, he's revolutionizing football. No, he's doing the same stuff. It's just, you're playing a team that's not prepared for whatever reason. And you have good players, but, the good thing is the Rams aren't as good as they once were, obviously. But they are dangerous because Matthew Stafford can still sling it pretty well. And, he's banged up. I don't know how healthy he's going to be.
Well, the coach yesterday was on the record saying he thinks he'll be fine.
Yeah, well, I'm obviously he's not going to say, "Oh, take a shot at him," but I meant, from the standpoint of him. I know he's going to play, but how healthy is he? And Cooper Kupp and how up to speed he can be. If he hits the ground running, he's an issue. I mean, he's an issue against everybody. So, yeah, it might be just as simple as Bradbury being in the slot again until they can get Roby ready. But boy, I don't like that matchup this week. If Kupp is ready to go, I do not like that matchup.
Yeah, today's a Wednesday, and we're speculating pretty good. I'm readily admitting I'm speculating here. I don't know the Kupp's going to go this week. I think
he
they
might not. I mean, there's no guarantee. Yeah,
right. So here's the question I got for you on the I don't know whether he's going to be good to go thing or not. And you'll get more information today, or at least an estimate, right? Are the Eagles walking through today? Or are they actually going to practice?
No, real practice.
All right, so you'll get a real injury update. Where do you think Sidney Brown is going to be at today and by the time the end of the week comes? Because that's going to be a factor in the slot corner snaps. Because if he's ready to play on Sunday, I got to believe he's going to be in there for at least some, if not a majority.
I mean, I mentioned that yesterday. Hamstrings are tricky with bass players, and Sidney's a very athletic bass player. I think, and I think I said it yesterday on the show, if he doesn't practice today, that's a really bad sign. If he is out there, at least in a limited fashion, I think it's a very positive sign. So today's a big day injury-wise. Justin Evans as well. And he was back by Friday of last week. So I think he's going to be fine. But Sidney's still a question mark, even though they said behind the scenes, at least, it's not serious. You have different grades of hamstring strains. It's the least serious. You got to be careful with those things. And you've seen it with Quez Watkins, same type of thing. I mean, that's a speed guy. You got to be careful with those guys.
Speaking of Quez Watkins, and I readily admit this is a major 2020 hindsight position that I'm taking because I sure as hell didn't do it on draft day 3 of the draft this past year. If the Eagles had the chance to go back and draft Puka Nacua instead of Kylie Ringo, do you think they do so?
No.
Really?
And again, that's, one of my pet peeves about fans and NFL people is they assume everything's a vacuum. And like Puka's played tremendously, don't get me wrong.
Number 2 wide receiver in the NFL.
Yeah, but if he's here, he's not the number 2 wide receiver in the NFL. If he's here, A.J. Brown's still here. Devontae Smith is still here. If he's here, he's not even getting the football. And you don't even know who Puka Nacua is.
Would I asked you to compare the two, Ringo and Puka Nacua. How much is Ringo playing?
No, he's not playing at all, but they like his long-term upside, and we'll see how things shake out. But again, if he were here, you wouldn't even know who he is.
You
literally.
Mean like we don't know who Ringo is on the Eagles.
Yeah, well, you know him a little bit more because of his play at Georgia. But yeah, I mean, obviously right now you could say, but I say this stuff all the time when people would say, Jefferson's not Jefferson in this offense. What people would say Jefferson and Rager. He's not putting up those numbers in this offense at that time. It's amazing to me. We just talked about a little bit with Nick Morrow. Nick Morrow's the same guy. He just looks better here than he looked in Chicago because he's playing behind the best defensive front and he was playing behind the worst defensive front. Same guy. He might be playing a little bit better. But I wouldn't say it's this drastic difference in that all of a sudden the light went off and he's a great player when he was a below average player, he's in a better situation. And Puka is played tremendously. He's been one of the best stories in the NFL. I'm not trying to criticize him, but if he's here, he's not playing. Simple as that. He's not playing. Different team, different situation.
So you don't think he could have come in here, flashed a little bit in preseason and gotten reps over Quez Watkins and or Alameda Zaccheaus?
And the best case scenario, he beats out Quez Watkins, and he's still not getting the football. He's not beating out Devontae Smith. He's not beating out A.J. Brown. I don't think anybody is saying he's better than those guys, even though his numbers are better. Well, maybe not in the case of I haven't looked at his yardage yet, but certainly
number 2 in the NFL. He's only trailing Jefferson at this time. He's got 500
so
yards.
certainly, but I don't think I don't think you're saying he's better than A.J. Brown.
No. I'm saying he's better than Ringo.
Well, yeah, as a rookie, he's got an opportunity. One is behind Darius Slay and James Bradbury. And by the way, Ringo hasn't been impressive. I'm not trying to defend Ringo, although he has been good on special teams. I'm just saying he's not playing here. They can't even get the ball to Dallas Goedert. And you think they're getting the ball to Puka Nacua behind A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith?
Here's where you and I are going our separate ways. You're comparing what he's doing with the Rams to what he would be doing with the Eagles. And you're right. He would not have anywhere near the numbers that he has right now with the Rams if he were on the Philadelphia Eagles. Absolutely right. That's not the comparison I'm making. I'm comparing him as a potential draft pick for the Eagles to what they're getting out of Ringo, who was the draft pick of the Eagles, who went about 50 picks before he did.
But
we're looking at it. I guess we're looking at it from two different angles.
Well, we're definitely looking at it different. This is the 20-point scorer on the bad NBA team. That's what he is. Calais Ringo came into a Super Bowl contender. Now, if he were on the Rams, and that's coming into the season, they played better than people expected. Coming into the season, people looked at that team and said, well, that's one of the worst teams in football, certainly bottom 10. You could argue bottom 5, and they played better, so you give them credit. There's more opportunity there. So if a rookie goes in there, there's more opportunity. Here, you got all pros, you got Pro Bowlers, you got Pro Bowl alternates all over the field, including a cornerback where you got Bradbury and Slay. I mean, nobody ever thought Ringo was coming in here to play this season. He was a long-term ceiling pick, and we'll see if it works out. Has he been? You'd like to say just in training camp and all that, you would have liked him to have been more impressive, but you didn't want him to play. I mean, the hope is Slay's healthy, Bradbury's healthy. Now already Maddox is injured, Jack McPherson. He's not a nickel corner. So, I mean, that to me is not as big as an issue. Could he be better than Josh Jobe right away? Yeah, you can make that argument. Would have been nice if he could have pushed Josh Jobe, and he didn't. But I'm not willing to write him off. And Puka Nacua should be thrilled about his situation because he's gotten an opportunity, and all you could do is make the most of your opportunity.
I'll try this one more time, and I don't think either you can understand the point I'm making or I don't understand the point you're making. If they had it to do again.
No, I said no, they wouldn't take him. They would not take him. They would take Calais. Yes.
Today. Not draft day. Today. And well, here's how I'll put it to you. If the Rams called Howie Roseman and said, we'll trade you Puka Nacua for Kylie Ringo, Howie says no?
Yes. Howie says
really?
No. Yes. He's not the type of receiver. One of the things that we talk about all the time, Quez Watkins is a 4-3-2 guy. If you look, and I'll look it up real quick, Puka's a shifty, more of a slotty type receiver.
A slotty type receiver with Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown, and you'd pass?
4.57. Well, there's a reason Olamide Zacchaeus didn't beat out Quez Watkins, and people dismiss it, and you've dismissed it, and that's fine. I'm just telling you what the Eagles think. They want his speed on the field to open things up for A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert. They want that speed on the field. Spacing is important to them. Now, you can say it's wrong, but it's important to them. If you got a 4-5-7 guy, that teams aren't going to play you the same way as a 4-3-2 guy. They're trying to create the spacing for the star players to make things easier for the star players. That's what they're trying to do.
Here's what I'm saying so far, and it's 4 games. And I did not watch Puka Nacua play all that much at BYU when he did play. But he's got 500 yards. Slot guys don't get 500 yards by running 5-yard digs. This guy can get behind the defense the same way Quez Watkins theoretically can get behind the defense.
What do you mean theoretically? He's shown he could run by people. If there's one thing Quez has shown is that he could run by people. There's no theoretically about it. He can run by. He is a legit fast receiver in a league full of fast guys. Now, if you're comparing Puka Nacua to an average human being, he's really fast. If you're comparing them to NFL receivers, he is below average. I'm just saying.
What I'm comparing is Puka Nacua's 4-game results to Quez Watkins' entire career.
Now you're on a different plane. I'm talking about in this situation. I'm talking about his role not in Los Angeles, because that's meaningless in Philadelphia. As well as he's played, he's not going to be the number 1 receiver in Philadelphia. At best, you could argue he would be number 3. What the Eagles want out of their number 3 receiver is the ability to help AJ and Devontae and Dallas Goedert with spacing. I'm saying he's not a fit. Long term, like if he turns into a star and they lose AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, you can make the argument. But right now where they are, they didn't want a receiver. So they're not drafting a receiver because they have 2 of the best receivers in football. Arguably 2 of the top 10, people have said. I think that's a bit of a stretch. But 2 of the top 20, I would say, in football, in all of football. So you can't have, and I had this discussion with somebody at the Eagles, you can't have a star at every position. You certainly can't have a star at 3rd wide receiver. Role players are role players for a reason. They want a specific role for Quez Watkins. And by the way, people are already saying, well, should Olamide Zacchaeus be back? And I've said it pretty consistently. When Quez is healthy, Quez will be playing over Olamide Zacchaeus because of the role he provides, because of the one trait that he provides that Olamide can't.
So was Zacchaeus a bad signing if he doesn't fit the role?
No, he's a 4th wide receiver. He's a 4th. That's his role. Now,
well, but your 4th guy has to, at least in part, be projected to be your 3rd guy if your 3rd guy goes down.
And you make do. It's similar to what they're doing in the slot. Look, if you have injuries, then it's next man up. Then you have to make do. But what you can't have is a star as a 4th receiver. It doesn't work that way. Either they get too good and they move on if they're forced and given an opportunity. I get what you're saying, but the guy, again, the guy's not even playing here. And they didn't want a wide receiver, and they took a cornerback that they think that has upside. We'll see if they're right long term. Now, if Calais Ringo, remember, Slay and Bradbury are both past 30 now. If he's a starting outside corner in 2 years, they're going to be very happy that they drafted him. If he's not, they're going to be. Then you can revisit it. But he wasn't supposed to play.
Correctly
this year.
Pointed out, he couldn't beat out Roby. Roby had a year's experience ahead of him, but was an undrafted. Job, what I say, Roby? My bad. Yeah. Job was a year ahead of him with as an undrafted player, and you got a guy who you used a draft pick on, you would hope that Ringo would be the guy to win that spot as the first backup outside cornerback behind Bradbury or Slay if either one of those guys got injured and or needed to move to the slot because Maddox went down, and we all could have at least thought that that was a possibility, and he didn't. So that's why I think it's a legit question to ask a guy who's established himself. And I readily admit he's got opportunity in LA, opportunity he would not have had he been here in Philadelphia had the Eagles drafted him. But after seeing both of them perform to this point in their careers, even taking into consideration they're in two different situations, would you make the trade now? I'd make it in a heartbeat. Are you kidding me? You're going to give me a guy who's already proven he can play in a league over a guy that, I used a draft pick on, but so what? He's now a Philadelphia Eagle. I only can evaluate where he sits on my roster as it is. I couldn't say yes quickly enough.
Well, I mean, that to me, your argument, if I boil it down, and by the way, I wouldn't disagree, is you're going to take the 53 best players. I'm saying, like, he's a better player right now. I'm saying there's a science to roster building and how he's very good at it. And you have to fit people in certain roles to build a great team. And it's not just about X is better than Y. And they don't need a receiver as much as they need a long-term option at corner. Now, maybe they're wrong. They're wrong all the time. And you get evaluations wrong. And, I talk about the whole league should be ashamed of themselves for missing out on Reed Blankenship. Well, maybe we're saying that about Puka long-term, and maybe he turns into a great player. But he ain't a fit for this team. He right now at this moment, 2 years down the line, maybe he would have been a fit if they don't, if they lose AJ and then they only can pay one of them. And all of a sudden you only have one receiver back to where you were in 2021 when Devontae was his rookie, but was a rookie. But they're trying to win a Super Bowl this year. And this year, Puka Nacua isn't a fit, so I can't lose my mind over it. He's not getting the football here. Right now, as well as he's played, he's not getting the football. They can't even get Dallas stinking Goddard the football. They ain't getting Puka Nacua the football.
Understood. But as the case, Zacchaeus made a big play and helped them win 2 weeks ago. So I'm telling you, Nacua could have done that. Now, Olamide got it done. So I'm not suggesting he's doing his job. He is. He's doing a nice job filling in for Quez while Quez is out. I'm just saying, check some of the highlights that Nacua's put up so far. He's running by guys, John. I know what he ran at the combine, but he's running by guys. There are some guys who in the game do things that their combine time says that they can't. And I think he's one of them. He's getting a chance in LA. You're right about that. Opportunity is very important, but he's all right. So let me ask you this question. The Rams offer you Puka Nacua for Quez Watkins today, a trade that has no chance whatsoever happening. But the Rams GM loses his mind, calls Howie and says, we have to have Quez Watkins because he ran a 0.2 faster time at the combine than Puka Nacua. Does Howie say no to that one too?
No, I think he'd make that trade because Quez is on the final year of his deal and he's probably going to be gone. But I think they would shift around. I think they would look for a speed guy, whether it's on the practice squad to bring that trait back. Because again, they're looking for a specific trait with AJ and Devontae. Now, if they don't have AJ and Devontae, it changes everything. It changes everything. Like I'm not in love with Quez. Look, if either of them sprains an ankle, I'm not even talking about a season-ending injury. I don't want to see Quez Watkins as the number 2 receiver. I've been pretty consistent with that. But as the number 3 guy providing what he provides, as long as everything stays on that plane, I'm fine with it. But yeah, he's on the final year of his deal. This kid's already proven he can play. And yeah, that's a hype because the Rams aren't trading him. And why would they? But yeah, because of where they are with Quez Watkins. This is probably his last year here anyway. But I do think people don't understand the roles on different teams in the back. And like I said, long before we had this conversation, I didn't know you were going to bring this up. I was talking about this with an Eagles guy last week. Can't have a star at every position. You got to fit in the little pieces, and guys have particular roles, and it's meaningful. Like Jack Stoll. Jack Stoll's not a great player, and if he's the starting tight end, you're going, we need a tight end.
Right.
But as the number 2 guy playing 15 snaps, making blocks, it's pretty good.
Exactly. He
Zach
fits his role
last year.
And I'm just saying, Puka Nacua in his role with the Eagles would be better than Quez Watkins in his roles. He's got a completely different role with the Rams. He's got to be their number 1 wide receiver. We'll see what happens when Cooper Kupp comes back. But he answered the bell and got 500 yards in the first 4 games. Even if you had used a 4th-round draft pick on him and he came in here and he was the 4th wide receiver, nobody would go, oh, my God, what a mess up by the Eagles. No, he's your 4th wide receiver. And Quez goes down. Oh, now he's got to be your 3rd wide receiver.
To that degree, and I know we got to get to Mike, get the break, but people shouldn't be upset about Ringo. I mean, yeah, I would have liked him to push Joe, but nobody expected him to play this year at corner, or even wanted him to play, because he's about the long term, and I don't think the panic button should be pressed on Calais Ringo just yet.
No, I'm not. It just so happens that they happen to be facing off against the guy who was picked after him, who has already established himself as an NFL player, and Ringo hasn't yet. He's McMullen. I'm McDonald. We are Mac and Mac. Oh, we see Mike Gill. He's in the green room. He's ready to rock and roll. We're headed down the shore with Mike Gill next here on Birds 365.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
At Pond Lehocky, we've recovered billions of dollars for our clients, and we're confident we can do the same for you. With over 250 years of combined courtroom experience, we've helped over 100,000 injured clients obtain some of the largest settlements in Pennsylvania. One conversation is all it takes to help you and your family get back on track. If you've been injured in an accident, give Pond Lehocky a call.
They're carving them up, and good play calling along the way. 1st and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Staffing is not easy, but that's what we do every day, all day. The key to our success is storytelling, asking the right questions to find the right people. Hi, I'm Gary Kane, president of Kane Partners. We want to be your staffing partner.
Since 1977, it's always been about you, the community, at Rafferty Subaru. And through the Subaru Love Promise, we prove we care by supporting charities like So Good Now.
So Good Now helps kids in under-resourced areas by connecting them with student athletes to serve as mentors. We remove barriers so athletes can help youth in the corners of our communities where light and love are needed most.
When you choose Rafferty Subaru, you help organizations like So Good Now.
It's all about you at Rafferty Subaru.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
For the big story on Action News,
search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Mac guys here on Birds 365, and it's Mike Gill time. He's got a little bit of a new setup here. You're not out in the dining room here. Where
he's in the studio.
Gill?
He's in the 97.3 studio. Yeah.
I'm going to the Phillies game tonight, so I had to get here a little early to get some stuff done before my show.
Nice.
Very nice.
Red October. What are you predicting tonight, Mike?
Well, yesterday on my show, I had 4-1 Phillies, so I'm hot right now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Exact score. I put out Wheeler's numbers last night, and I said 7 innings, 1 run. Went 6 2/3 with 1 run. So I was damn close myself.
If you together, Jody, we might have some. You know, I recall sitting next to you at a World Series game like 2009 or something, and we were banging these picks left and right out, man.
Well, and I got the Phillies winning again tonight. I want to see 2 games and done.
I did too. By the way, Nola last year in the closeout game against the Cardinals, he was excellent. I expect it again.
Jody had a little extra pep in his step this morning because he won a big parlay last night.
A couple of, and I don't usually play baseball parlays, but it's Phillies in the playoffs, so yeah, we went out on the limb a little bit last night. All right, Gil, what's the shirt? You're not repping a college or just not repping an area? What are you selling today?
I'm just rocking a down the shore, surfing guy shirt, just being comfortable. Nothing. I thought, you know what? I drove here this morning and I thought to myself, oh man, I don't have a t-shirt on for the guys.
Yeah, it happens.
That's all right.
Well, you got Brian Propp and I think Roy Halladay up in the back.
Yeah, Halladay. By the way, the Brian Propp jersey is signed by the entire 87 Flyers.
Wow.
There
we go. You got to get that framed, Mike. You got to get that framed the entire.
I've had that thing since about 1987, by the way, and it looks. I mean, it's not a smear, not a smidge, nothing.
Yeah,
that's when you put it on the wall. You just have to be careful when you drink too much because that's the only way that thing's going to get smeared.
I drink a lot in my studio listening to some of the callers and the text messengers.
All right, Johnny and I haven't gone there yet, so let me go there with you here. Yesterday, Brian Johnson was asked about the 3rd and 11 call to hand it to Kenny Gainwell up the gut. Now, Sirianni the day before had kind of taken the bullet and said, well, that's kind of on me. I said we should run the ball on that play. I let Brian do his job. I don't call too many plays. But on that play, I particularly called the play. Don't put him on the truth-o-meter on that one. How did you shake out with 3rd and 11, Kenny Gainwell, who, oh, by the way, fumbled? Thank you very much, Lane Johnson, for falling on it. Right. Could have been disastrous. How did you ferret out that play call, that decision, and the fact that the Eagles kind of dodged a bullet on it?
I didn't like it, and there's a couple reasons why. Generally, like you see teams run the 3rd and long with like the delay draws and stuff that they think the defense is expecting a pass. You've got the defense back, and it gives you a 10-yard cushion to try to delay and get that run. But for where they were on the field, and as he said, we have a field goal kicker. I mean, and by the way they were running the ball, not very effectively. I was a little disappointed with that. I didn't like the play at all. And then the he said, she said, where Sirianni, hey, we got it the last time. Okay, that's great. But in this instance, down and distance of where you were on the field, certainly didn't like it. And look, I know Brian Johnson's feeling his way through. I didn't love the game plan. Now he scored 34 points. It sounds asinine.
Yeah.
But how many people are watching that game with 8 minutes left saying, all right, you can run this game out, just demoralize this team. And that's kind of, to me, I'm trying to find out what the identity of Brian Johnson's offense is. And to me, the only thing I can come up with is this team demoralizes teams. John, you tweeted out a week ago. They took the will of Tampa Bay. I felt like they could demoralize and take the will of Washington and didn't take the opportunity. And that kind of play there, it kept them alive in the game when they really could have, because you weren't using your will. You weren't being that team. And then they tried to say, well, this is who we are. Let's do it. And it didn't work. So it was like a mixed messaging, I felt, with the whole between the.
Well, I'll play devil's advocate there and say, all right, and Tampa Bay is a tremendous run defense, and they did, at least on paper, and did demoralize them. So it's not like the Eagles, and the Eagles have done that in the past. New Orleans came in here once with the #1 run defense. They ran it all over them. So they have done it in the past. But in that game, they weren't that effective running the football. Before the end of the game, certainly when compared to what they had been against Minnesota and Tampa, they were not effective at all, if you want to use that comparison. And that is probably the best defensive front they're going to play all season. So I'd mentioned to Jody, I expect this to be a pass-heavy game for two reasons. One, for that, and two, because they wanted to get the passing game going. They know they have to get the passing game going because Buffalo's on the horizon, Kansas City, Dallas, even the Rams. You're going to have to score some points and be a little bit more explosive. And, hey, Jalen Hurts, 319 yards, 2 touchdowns. A.J. Brown, what did Mike Tanier call that Emmanuel Forbes, that poor guy, the goofy rookie? I don't know why
he had to deactivate his social media, Forbes.
Yeah, poor. Yeah. By the way, that's bad. I mean, yeah, he got a lot of you-know-whats, and that's absurd. That was a really difficult matchup. And guess what? I blame Ron Rivera, Jack Del Rio for that because they
decided to put him on him.
Yeah, they have Cobb Fuller's having a great season. They have Benjamin St. Juste, who's a big corner who has some experience, and they let that poor guy I was just talking about, speed, because he's the best athlete they have. They put him on A.J. Brown. You're not ready for that, and they put him in a bad spot. But the Eagles' game plan I kind of liked. It kind of made sense to me. Am I crazy?
No, you're not crazy, but I do understand what Jody's question is on that 3rd and 11 play, because it seemed like it was mixed messaging all day. If you were, hey, we're running this game out, 8 minutes left to go, and we're just churning and burning out the yards, nope, I probably don't have a problem with the play. But they never got into a running rhythm where it felt like no matter what play we call, we're getting this. I mean, there are times where they turn around and hand the ball up, and they're just chewing 6 yards off at a pop. If you go 3rd and 6 and you get 7-8 yards there, I don't know that we're complaining as much, right?
Yeah. Well, it's a draw on 3rd and 11. You're trying to hit them. You're trying to surprise them. And then maybe it turns into 4th and 2. You go for it. Yeah. And he didn't, and they fumbled, and they didn't execute. But I think Jake Elliott, what a 36-yard field goal. Yeah. I mean, every team runs draws on 3rd and 11 at some point, and most of them aren't successful. But you're doing it. You're basically doing it to try to fool somebody who's expecting pass. I mean, everybody does it, but it usually doesn't work.
All right, so let me try it this way. We quote PFF a lot here on Birds 365, and I think John and I are on the same page. We give them their props. They're just due. They do a lot of work. It doesn't mean we have to agree with everything they come up with as far as the number goes. But the number that they have on Kenny Gainwell right now is the 53rd back of 56 backs who qualify in the National Football League, play enough snaps, get enough carries. 53 out of 56. We know the Eagles, quote unquote, trust him. Should they?
Well, after he fumbled, they might trust him less. So I can tell you that. I know we see that how many times in this league. Guy fumbles and he kind of falls his way down the depth chart. I guess they trust him more. Probably, John, you could attest to this because he blocks better than the other guys. That's one of the reasons why you gain the trust of the coaches is who blocks better. Swift, not a great blocker, stepping in there and sticking his nose in there. The whole thing, though, to me, I think we all have seen that Swift is the more dynamic, explosive, big play back. The problem with Swift has been he can't stay healthy, so they have to find a way to get carries for somebody else to make sure Swift isn't being a 20 to 25 carry kind of guy. And right now, Gainwell's that next guy, which I guess is disappointing when you got a guy in Penny who averages 6 yards a touch when he's healthy in Seattle and he can't get on the field. So the fact that Gainwell has more trust and production from the coaching staff than Penny does, I think you have to go back to a question we asked, I think, 2 weeks ago. What is Penny on this roster for if he can't get carries? Because Gainwell, to me, I'm sorry, he just, to me, looks like a blah guy. He doesn't have the burst. Now, maybe that's because you're watching Swift with such bursts that he looks like he's in quicksand, but he doesn't have the speed. He doesn't have the explosion. He just doesn't have that same playmaking quickness that you want from that guy who's the change of pace kind of guy. And I guess if your first guy is the fast guy, your other guy, the change of pace guy, is but that's not what Gainwell's game was supposed to be, right?
Yeah. No, and that Jody's fair point there. I mean, should they trust him as much as they trust him? Probably not. He hasn't shown anything.
Oh, but he was great in the playoffs, John. I don't know how many times I heard
he
that
was
during this
better.
offseason.
He
He had
better.
one really good game. He played really well against the Giants.
Well,
the other two games against San Francisco and in the Super Bowl.
No, but
he wasn't great in either one of them. But everybody lumps those games together. Oh, he was great in the playoffs. He was great in a playoff game.
That he didn't make a lot of mistakes. I think from the Eagles standpoint, that was there because Mike brings up if you if you just look at the running aspect of it, DeAndre Swift has been top 5 back in the league to this point. And in fact, I'll pull up the PFF rankings. So if you just say running, they have him number 6. So right there, top 5 back in the league, number 6. Pass blocking, he's bottom 5. He's been awful as a pass blocker. But that's becoming a lost art, another lost art in the NFL. There aren't a lot of great pass protecting running backs. And even though Kenny has been better than DeAndre as a pass protector, he hasn't been good either. So, yeah, and you bring up Rashad Penny. Maybe Boston Scott can carve out a bigger role in that aspect because they need somebody to be able to pick up a blitz, and they haven't done that well. That's one of the low key. Again, we're nitpicking because they're 4-0, but they don't have a running back that can pick up a blitz right now.
Well, and how much then, guys, is that contributing to some of the decisions and some of the things that we're seeing in this offense?
Oh, a lot. I think, I think it was one of the games. It might have been New England. It was New England or Minnesota. I heard a lot of, the offensive line didn't play well. I'm like, they played pretty well. And Jalen's running for his life. And a lot of it was the backs couldn't pick up what they were supposed to pick up. And some of it's on Jalen as well. If you're bringing more people, and it's probably Minnesota because Flores blitzes 60% of the time. If you're rushing one more player than it's accounted for, that's on the quarterback to get the football out. I mean, you're not supposed to be able to block an extra. If you're blocking 5 and they're bringing 6, or if you're blocking 6 and they're bringing 7, that's on the quarterback to get the football out. But yeah, running back and pass protection has been an issue with all of them.
But I also think that the Eagles aren't going to sweat that. I'm not sure they put as much emphasis on it.
No,
well, thanks.
Because they don't have.
I think it's a league-wide thing, and they do trust their quarterback to right. If the numbers don't match up, get the ball out of your hands very quickly. All right, Mike, need your take on this one. If Nicholas Morrow has 2 more sacks this weekend, will the comparisons to Seth Joyner begin? John just finished talking to Seth Joyner about should he stay in there rather than N'Kobe. Could it go to an even higher level and people start comparing Nicholas Morrow to Seth Joyner, one of the all-time Eagle great linebackers?
Well, Seth Joyner is an all-time a great Eagle linebacker, but Nick Morrow is the only Eagle linebacker to do what he did on Sunday. He is the only linebacker in the history of the Philadelphia Eagles to have 10 or more tackles, 3 sacks, and a forced fumble in the same game. He has been highly productive, and I guess it gets to the point of what do you do with this kid when Dean is back? Does he and Dean share the field together? Does Dean just usurp him altogether and he goes back to the practice squad? I really thought they did a good job. Sean Desai, I see, taking a lot of John Gannon hits now because the secondary has given up a lot of yards and first downs and stuff, but I thought he did a really good job of picking his spots with the blitz. He saw we're not getting home with our front, but we'll utilize the impact that our front has, and they sent some delayed blitzes, and Morrow was the recipient of 3 sacks, not because Morrow is Seth Joyner or
Lawrence Taylor. Forget about Seth.
Because-
Lawrence Taylor.
Because if you watch Jalen Carter, he takes up 2 and 3 guys, so that Morrow has lanes that look like DeAndre Swift running the football to go get the quarterback. So Morrow's taking advantage of what's in front of him, and good for him, by the way. Yeah, I think that story is going to be interesting when Dean is back. What happens to that linebacker position, which has kind of been, solid in his absence so far.
Yeah.
I mean, we haven't looked at it. It's not like, oh man, I don't know I can't even think of his name right now. All I just remember, Nate Geary. It's not like 47's on the field where teams
Poor Nate, man.
47 at.
Nate's still taking grief, isn't he, John?
Nate's still taking shots, man. Poor Nate Geary.
He was not good.
No, he was not.
But go ahead and tell him. Maybe Gill missed the first 42 times you told the story about why the Eagles coaches like Nate Geary.
By the way, they loved him. And people would get so angry. I probably said it to you over the years, Mike. They would get so angry at me for telling them that the Eagles coaching staff, like Nate Geary, Ken Plagiol, who was the linebackers coach, loved him. Jim Schwartz loved him. And one of the reasons they loved him is he played an entire season with a sports hernia, and he was banged up, but they had nobody else. So they had tremendous.
The coaches fell into he's a Philly guy. He's Aaron Rodgers all of a sudden.
No, well, it's if you don't have a better option and a guy's willing to go through that. Jody brought up Deshaun Watson earlier. He's shutting himself down.
Yep.
If you don't have another option and you're a coach and you see somebody fighting through that, yeah, it's understandable. You gain respect, but bottom line, he wasn't a good player.
To be fair, he was a safety that they tried to move to linebacker. He was too small, not good enough. And but my point being is Nick Morrow, by the way, Nick Morrow was not some guy it's not like, where did they find
By the way, Nick Morrow's a safety. They made into a linebacker. He played safety in college. Yeah,
that is true. But he did have NFL linebacking experience on a bad team that he got to play and
ton of experience. Yeah.
Yes.
3,600 snaps. He got 3 sacks.
And that said,
4 sacks. I'm
3
sorry.
sacks coming in.
Yeah.
That said, Nick Morrow, it's not like they just found this guy and what a great – he has been a starting player in this league. To have that filling it now, but are you intrigued at all what happens when Dean comes back?
Well, that's why I brought it up, because when Seth asked me the question on our postgame show, I immediately dismissed it. And I said, no, of course, Nakobe's back. He's starting middle linebacker. And I started thinking about it after, and I said, well, why am I saying that? And a lot of it is, I got to be honest, is because of the way he played in college, because we haven't seen him enough to know what type of player he is. And I started thinking, well, if Nick Morrow keeps playing like this, and you're right, everything you said, Mike, he's the beneficiary of playing behind that defensive front, but he's playing well. Do you take a player playing well off the field? Ultimately, if you're asking me, yes, I think the Eagles will take him off the field. I think Nakobe Dean will be the starter once he's back and healthy. Is that the right decision, though? I think that's a fair question to ask.
And my question is, why can't they rotate the 3 linebackers that they have? And sorry, Christian Ellis, you are seriously the odd man out. But when Nakobe comes back, why can't they just rotate Cunningham and Morrow and Nakobe? They didn't do it at all last year. I don't know if it's a philosophical thing, but Mike Tanier, who we had on in hour number 1, called it making decisions by package. Who are you going to be? What the other team do? Fine. If it just means guys all getting chance, all rotating, guys staying fresh by having a couple of snaps off, I don't think that's a bad thing. But the Eagles looked at it as a bad thing last year. Either that or they didn't think that Kobe could step in and even hold the fort. I'm very intrigued to see if they'll, when Nakobe comes back, if they'll have all 3 of the guys playing, or if one just goes to the bench. Would not be my choice. All right, Mike. They go out to LA cross country. I mean, we got Eagles history of cross country. This is a new team. It changes every single year. Is that of any concern that they got to go all the way across the country to take on the Rams this week? We know they got a better roster, but is they're
going to have more fans as well.
That's true,
they'll have
too.
no
Stadium.
fans, too. Yes. No, I mean, this trip they've done plenty of times. They've won out there. They won in the soccer stadium, beat the Chargers. They've won in this stadium and beat the Rams. I don't see I feel like the whole cross-country thing has kind of lost its mystique. It used to be, oh, well, the West Coast teams are coming here. They're playing at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Body clock game. Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of lost. I mean, Seattle came over here the other night and whipped up on the Giants. And, I think more and more of these cross-country trips are kind of losing their mystique. No, I mean, anywhere the Eagles go, they're going to have fans, as we know. They're going to travel well. And quite frankly, this is one of those matchups where it's very intriguing because it is a game against a team that has skill players that everybody knows. It's like playing the Vikings. They got skill players. You know who they are. Their line is horrible. So this is a game that kind of plays into the Eagles' hands where, okay, we're weaker in the secondary, but your line stinks. So the matchup really is, can the Eagles' defensive front win and dominate that battle? Otherwise, if they can't, and this is what I thought happened in the game last week, I thought they should have dominated up front with more pressure where they didn't have to blitz. That didn't happen, so they blitzed, and it ended up working. But I thought the Washington line did a good job, as good a job as you can imagine in the interior, because I really thought Carter, Fletcher, Jordan, Milton, Marlon would have got enough push to get Howe off his spots and make him kind of make erratic throws. He was comfortable all day. And you talk about the game plan and execution, Jody, play calling. I thought their game plan was great, but I thought Hal executed the game plan fantastic. He made the throws.
Yeah, I thought he played well.
Byproduct of their line holding up. If their line doesn't hold up, Hal can't step up in there and make some of the throws he made.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Sam played pretty well. And I think that was underrated. They had such a bad game in Buffalo. You were going to get the overcorrection. And Eric Bieniemy made some nice adjustments, got the football out quickly, so tried to limit the Eagles' defensive front as much as possible. Sometimes you got to give the other team credit as well. One thing we haven't talked about is this is the worst possible week to lose Cam Jurgens with Aaron Donald waiting in the midst. There's a guy who can wreck a game.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden, I'm surprised how quickly the Eagles defaulted to Sua Opeta, Mike. Now, he played pretty well when Cam came out of that game at halftime. And technically, the Eagles' offense was better with Sua than without him. But boy, man, Aaron Donald, they're going to circle Sua Opeta. They move them all over the place, depending on where your weakness is. That's the obvious weakness. Aaron Donald's going to be all over Sua Opeta. How did the Eagles deal with that?
So do you go with the classic Reggie White run right at him, that mold, or do you try to use the other side of the field and go behind Mailata and Dickerson and kind of get away from him? Do you anticipate seeing a run game and try to neutralize him there? Short pass stuff. That's what, the Eagles see a lot. Because of their pressure, they have teams that just kind of nickel and dime them all day long. Will the Eagles kind of implore that situation? And then that's the time where you start to ask the question. All right, is this finally the game? You're going to have Donald. We're going to get the ball out quick. Dallas Goedert, you're going to have the big game this week. So there's a lot of chess match going on, but you're right. Because of the teams finding your weakness, Opeta right now, I guess if you're circling the line, even if Opeta was a Pro Bowler, he'd still be the weakest guy on the line, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
how scary a thing is that? He's a Pro Bowler, but he's the weakest guy on the line.
That was
I
Isaac.
guess you have a good offensive line there, huh? Yeah.
That was Isaac last year. So Isaac was he was a Pro Bowl alternate, but yeah, he's the weakest guy on the line. Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
He's got the most pressures in football, by the way, Donald this year. And second is Carter.
Yeah. And Carter plays a lot less, by the way.
Yeah, I think it's 87 less
but
snaps.
Now, see, a lot of people point that out. Carter's played less. Carter, even at this stage, people are picking it up very quickly. He does not get the attention Aaron Donald gets. The fact that Aaron Donald does what he does with the attention he gets, it's unbelievable. And it's been that way for years and years and years.
By the way, the Chargers just traded J.C. Jackson.
J.C. Jackson back to the Patriots.
2 late-round picks. Would that have been a better move than Bradley Roby?
Well, he's an outside corner.
Right.
Same thing. They need
Yeah.
a slot corner.
They need a slot guy.
Yeah.
So they wanted, but that's the thing. They wanted to get, obviously they wanted to get Bradbury back to the outside.
Yes.
Just for the people who John, are going to ask.
Yes.
When
hashtag
Roby,
no, right? Hashtag.
when Roby gets up to speed, then yes, chances are Bradbury will be moving back out. All right, Mike, last thing. The aspect of the game that will give the Eagles the win over the Rams is blank, or the aspect of the game that may add up to the Eagles taking their first loss of the season is blank. Fill in the blank. Give me either the key aspect why they win or the key aspect why they lose.
Well, I think the first one is what I mentioned. The offensive line of the Rams is not very good. The aspect would be if the Eagles pressure Stafford, and he'll probably complete a lot of passes. But again, the Eagles, people don't like this type of defense, and that's the thing. Washington went on a lot of long drives to score. The Eagles defense is predicated on, we're going to give you 9, 10, 11, 12 play drives, but somewhere in there you're going to make a mistake or end up with 3. Last week, they didn't end up with 3, and that's the difference. The Eagles defense did what they do, yards, catches, go for it, but you're not getting 6 or you're going to make a mistake. Washington made no mistakes, and they converted for 6. Can that happen 2 weeks in a row? Are the Rams going to go on 9, 10, 11, 12 play drives? We'll see. They make a lot of mistakes, but to me, predicated on the Eagles defensive line getting pressure and forcing Stafford to get the ball out quick, and the Eagles making the plays and forcing them into 3. That would be, to me, how Philadelphia wins. If it's the other way around, it's because they didn't get pressure, and you saw Puka and Tutu and
Puka and Tutu.
That's their wide receiver duo right now.
Yeah, and those guys just catching the ball, a lot of missed tackles. You see these guys all the time that give the Eagles problems. They catch the ball in the slot, and they reverse spin up the field. They get first down. They keep moving the chains, and they convert them into 6 as opposed to 3. If the Eagles are holding you to field goals, long drives, you're in trouble.
Mike Gill, always a pleasure, buddy. Thank you very much for hopping on with us. We will talk to you next week. Enjoy yourself at the Phillies game today.
All right, boys. We'll see you.
Thanks, Mike.
Gill from
at Mike Gill Show. Make sure you listen today, 2 to 6, if you're in South Jersey.
So he's got to hustle to get up to Philly by the time the first pitch.
Yeah, he'll probably leave early. I don't know. He's still there. Are you leaving
maybe
early?
that's why he's taping some interviews that they'll play to give him a
maybe
head start.
Yeah. There's savvy radio people there, Jody.
I'm gonna go way out on a limb and tell you the Walt Whitman Bridge is going to be crowded at 7:00 tonight. Into the city. Yeah, people will be coming in.
I've been in that pain many, many a time.
I will be going over the Ben Franklin much earlier than 7:00 to go to tonight's Phillies game. All right, he's McMullen. I'm McDonald. Come back. We got to put a bow on this show.
If you own a company and you're not producing a podcast, you're missing out. The public consumes messaging when they're ready. Join the professional podcast network of companies and let JAKIB Media Partners put you in the podcast arena. Come to our professional studio, or we'll come to your place of business and professionally produce your company podcast. Call JAKIB Media right now at 267-261-3428. 267-261-3428.
My name is Dr. Bruce Grosinger, and I'm the medical director of Philadelphia PRP and Stem Cell Institute. I'm reaching out to those who suffer from spine and joint pain. We use treatment methods that require no surgery, no scalpel, no drugs.
Running, walking, or whatever your desires are, Dr. Grosinger is where you need to come.
You can benefit from the same PRP and stem cell treatment as Wilbert Montgomery. Call us now at 610-222-5675.
and save in southeastern PA and Delaware with Colony Pools this football season, and let the experts close your pool with a custom Merlin safety cover in green for the birds. And if you join our Winter Watch team, we'll give you another 20% off, and Colony Pools will handle it all. Keep your tiles on your pool, not in your pool. Fly with Colony right now, Birds fans. Visit flywithcolony.com. EAGLES, Eagles.
All right, J-Mac, the last question I had for Mike Gill was a fill-in-the-blank answer. I'll do the same for you as the last question of the show today. The most important thing you will learn at practice today is blank.
Sidney Brown's health. He's practicing. I think that's a big, good sign. Not that, to get through the week. Long term, obviously, they want to get Bradley Roby into the slot. That seems to be the plan, at least. But this week, they're going to need to piece it together again. And Sidney Brown's going to have to be a big part of that. And Mike mentioned 8:08 start. I forget it's playoffs, so he's got plenty of time to get there. Billy's playoffs.
Still, if he's leaving at 6, if he's on the air till 6, game starts at 8. He's on the bridge at 7 something. Yeah, the bridge could be ugly. Going to take him an hour.
It's going to be. Yeah, it's
where he's at to get to the bridge.
But he'll get there. He'll get there for first pitch.
I give him a shot. I don't think it's a slam dunk. He's not there with a half an hour to have a beer and a hot dog ahead of time. Let's just go there. After Sidney Brown, you think we'll see Evans at practice today?
I do. We saw him Friday. I don't think there was a setback, so I just don't think he was ready. And I do expect him to be practicing this week, and I expect him to be back. I'm a little bit more uncertain on Sidney because it's hamstring. I said it, fast guys, you tend to be cautious in that aspect more than if it were an offensive lineman. I'd say, yeah, he'll be back. It's grade 1, he'll be back. But with the fast guys, you tend to be more cautious because you don't want to turn it into a 6-week injury when you press those types of things.
Which Johnny will be back here tomorrow and give us those answers as to who practiced in the limited time they get to watch practice. If you can see anything first, is he on the field? And then how's he look? McMullen will be here to give you all those answers tomorrow. I'm back tomorrow. You in, John?
Yeah, let's do it.
Hopefully talking about the Phillies advancing in the postseason. And speaking of that, you got Bill Colarulo coming up next with the Philly Sports Power Hour. He'll surely be talking Phillies, but McMullen and McDonald will be back tomorrow to talk Birds in 2 and 2.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate inside the locker room and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.